There we go. Hello.
Yes.
I explained that as muddled as possible, but that's kind of my take on warm blanket movies. It's just kind of that, like I said, that movie that if it's on, no matter what you're doing, if you come across it somewhere, you're going to sit down, you're going to watch it.
Yeah. Or you don't know what you're in the mood for. That's just what you put on.
Yeah.
Or something that gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling when you're watching it. I don't know about you, but I've got a variety of movies on my list.
Oh, yeah. There are some movies that you would not think that we would ever talk about on the show, for sure.
I have two in particular. I'll say this. There's some on here that are based off the fact they came on TV a lot back in the day, in the 90s.
Yeah.
So they pop on. It's like, and to this day, if it comes on, I'll sit down and watch it.
Yeah. 100%. How are you doing, sir? How's it up there in Great White North?
It's really white. It's been snowy and icy, and you would think that people would know how to drive in the winter up here. They don't. Year after year, everyone forgets. Yeah. So lots of cars flinging off the road, and saw a stuck Prius. He got in a little too much snow, and he was not. It doesn't take a lot of snow to get a Prius stuck. So I've seen a lot of crazy wrecks this year. Nothing super deadly, just like people driving like maniacs when it's sheets of ice. So, but that's Spokane for you. We've got a lot of hills around here, and the roads aren't great. So you throw all that together, and we have a lot of transplants from other places that have moved here too. And it'll wake you up driving to work in the morning. So
I do want to say what is up to Travis. It's been a long time, my man. Yeah, we had one day of snow down here, and the world shut down for a day because they all freaked out. But otherwise, like yesterday was like 60 degrees. And then today was like mid 40s and rainy. So it's Oklahoma.
That doesn't sound bad to me. Yeah. Every time this weather like this sets in, you.
No, it's fine. That way we'll know how we're doing.
I've got my laptop up so I can follow along with the commentary.
Nice.
And I'm doing this from my phone, so but didn't want to start getting feedback and whatnot.
I bet you do, Travis. Truck driving. I remember when I was driving for FedEx, it was bad enough, but here in Weatherford, like it's like as bad as you used to joke about the drivers in Hobart, Weatherford is atrocious. I don't know what school or how they learn to drive here, but it's not well.
It's college towns. When I was living out in Cheney, which is or Cheney as I call it, because that's how it's properly pronounced. Sorry, Spokane people. It's not Cheney, it's Cheney. It was a town, it was 20 miles away from Spokane, about 13,000 people, but majorly a college town. Yeah, people drove like lunatics there. It's college town life. But no, otherwise, I recovered from my hip surgery. I'm back working full time, and that's my life. Amy turns 15 tomorrow. So.
Good God Almighty!
Yeah, and that's the thing. I know Ash is not far behind her, so
he turned 14 in October. So yeah,
she's less than a year older than him. I'm not ready for it.
You're not mature enough to have teenagers.
But Amy still looks like she's like 12. She hasn't aged much past 12, so she still looks like a little kid.
Well, that's good.
She did not get my genes in that department, so she's probably one of those people that looks young for a very long time. She's going to get carded a lot.
Yeah.
But that's okay. But yeah, that's life up here. Work. I got a funny entry this week. So we have a local arcade. Well, scratch that. For tax purposes, it's a church of pop culture. It is called the Jedi Alliance. So, a little bit of backstory here. If you have any kind of game like a pool table or arcade game or pinball game, you get taxed per machine in Washington State. So having an arcade's pretty tough.
Yeah.
They found a loophole. So now they have an arcade that is a giant, that they call the church for tax purposes. You come in and donate $15, and you can play as much as you want for several hours. It's awesome. They have so many arcade games. They have like 50 pinball games. They have the upstairs area is a museum of like movie memorabilia.
Yeah.
Like some stuff from T2 and a full-size Xenomorph and just, I mean, it's awesome. You ever get this way, I'll take you. I love it. Anyways, story behind the injury. Amy and I were playing a beat-em-up game called Ninja Baseball Batman. Does not have Batman in it. Batman refers to the fact you're playing ninja baseball players. They use bats as weapons. Look it up. It's an awesome game, and you fight your way across the USA trying to stop an evil memorabilia collector. Anyway, it's like most beat 'em ups. It's a bunch of button mashing. So we're sitting there and we fought our way through it, and I'm just sitting there hammering buttons, moving the joystick the whole time. And the next day I woke up and my arm, back, and shoulder from where I was hammering those buttons so hard hurt like crazy, and it's been strained all week. Had to go get a massage to kind of get it worked out. So if I arcade too hard at this age, it breaks me. So doesn't take much anymore.
Well, not to create the whole like injury scene from Jaws, but speaking of age, I wish it had something cool to do, like a pinball church. That sounds awesome. But no, like my wrist, like 8 months ago, I slept on it wrong. And like I still can't bend my thumb certain ways.
Getting old is great.
Yeah.
I was like, man, we're not that old. We're only 37, but apparently that's old enough. I guess it's not the age, it's the mileage. Yeah. So
I'm at this point just basically like holding out for flesh mech suits. That's the only way I'm going to make it to an old age.
Yes. Gonna have a Wayland Yutani like exoskeleton holding me up, like from Prometheus or something.
I need Boston Dynamics to get on it.
I mean, for real. They keep on showing us all this cool stuff. Like, instead of making dog robots, can you make, like, exosuits that work?
Yeah. Well, we got to start trading some of this stuff out for robotics. I'm ready.
Sign me. I will be a beta tester. I don't care if they put an evil AI in me. Whatever. If it makes me feel better, I'm down.
Yep. Worst case scenario, you're Dr. Octopus. It's fine.
Or that guy from Upgrade. So whatever. Great movie, by the way. Really great movie.
Speaking of movies, we'll do this up top. I was going to save it for the end. So next month, well, there's actually people here watching. Next month for January, the plan is to do our top movies of 2022. Mostly because that's how algorithms work, and that's what people like to see. I have my fluctuating top 10. I've always done a bottom 5. Not in this is the biggest piece of crap movie, but these were the 5 movies that disappointed me the most.
Yes.
So if you're down for that, I still got a few to watch. I know I'm doing a double feature this weekend because we're going to watch Violent Night, so I can do it for one of our Christmas episodes. And then so again, Weatherford movie theater coming out of the blue. They got Bones and All here.
Oh,
the
really?
Timothy Chalamet cannibal movie, and so I'm like, well, yeah, I'm gonna go see that. But then, other than that, I think The Whale is the only other movie that I'm interested in watching. So if you want to go see Avatar, go for it. I'm probably not gonna.
I think we are 8 years past that movie having any relevance. Yeah. I know some people are excited for it, and I just couldn't care less myself. Maybe it'll be great. I think it's going to be more proof of concept of whether they can do with CGI. I think that's what it's going to be. Yeah. I got to comment on something. real quick, Travis, I'd completely forgotten about that time my dad fell into the Travis commented on it at that time. Travis and my dad and I were playing hide and seek with Nerf guns out at Hunter Park. My dad was trying to sneak along the dam and fell in.
No.
I completely forgot about that. So Travis and I were hiding down by this big tree, and my dad comes up and he's like, "Oh, I need you to come up here." We're like, "Oh, you're just trying to trick us so you can shoot us with the Nerf gun." He's like, "No, really." Look up, and he's just soaking wet. He just tripped and fell into Hunter Lake. That was great.
Well, now
we're not graceful in my family.
I wish your dad had been there when we went on that group trip and played laser tag, and I got that nosebleed in the middle of it and couldn't play anymore and was just a sitting duck.
Oh, yeah.
That way somebody there would have felt some sort of pity for me just sitting there being shot by 8-year-olds.
I remember that. That's what a day. Oh. There's so many memories like that. It's just like random things will trigger them, and I'll have to talk to my dad about that time next time I talk to him. Just my dad, like me, got in all sorts of hilariously wacky accidents. So, like time he had a piece of metal while he was hammering something go flying into his artery, and he looked down exploding at blood. Did he call the ambulance? No. He called my mom because he didn't want to spend the money on an ambulance. So,
I can't fault him for that.
My dad is 64 now, and I often question how he made it to that age.
Oh,
We're built different, I guess. Well, would you like to get started on the list?
Let's do it. So yeah, that's right. We are talking about our top 10 warm blanket movies, and again, they're just movies that just make you comfy. They're snuggly. So I guess I'll start here. And it's one that, again, it's one that was on USA all the time when I was a kid. In fact, I didn't grow up watching the show as a kid at all. I didn't see the show until more into my late teens with my grandpa. So all my knowledge of the lore of this IP was this movie. So imagine my surprise when actually I saw the show, but it's 1987's Dragnet with Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd.
That is one of the most underrated comedies of the 80s.
It's so funny, and when you watch it, I'm just like, oh, this is a great movie. And you have Christopher Plummer as this sleazy preacher that's also the leader of a satanic group called Pagan. You have what's the actor's name? Who plays the sleazy? He's the sleazy pornographer. No, it's Dabney Coleman. Dabney Coleman.
That's right.
And he's doing this crazy Southern lisp. That's why I'm a pornographer. You have, of course, the funny thing is you have Dan Aykroyd playing. He plays the straight man because he's playing Joe Friday, like the character Joe Friday from the show from the 60s. And you have young, peak 80s Tom Hanks as the foil for him. It's a fun movie.
It's hilarious. Those two are such a great combination. It sucks we didn't get them together in more movies because they play off each other so well. I love it when Tom Hanks' character first shows up and he's got he's dressed like a hippie or a biker, has long hair, and he's in a wrecked car, and it's just the whole introduction. It's like this complete clash of styles and personalities, and just how hilariously dry Dan Aykroyd is. It's people against goodness and normality.
Yeah.
Pagan. Pagan. Tom Hanks looks at him and yeah. Just the comedic timing is stellar. There's a lot of movies that have remade old shows. It's one of the best.
Yeah.
I remember we watched it on cable. Then my dad and I rented it one night, and we ran into it. As I'll tell you, with other things on this list, it's a lot more raunchy.
Yeah, it
if
is.
it's not edited, as we found out.
Yeah.
So, but word that I love the part in the snake pit. It is a fun movie, beginning to end. It should, in my opinion, be considered a classic comedy, and it's a shame it's not, especially given the caliber of talent involved. It's kind of been just relegated to the dustbin of 80s history, maybe overshadowed by a few other things, which is a shame. It's a great movie. And
I think we can all agree that Tom Hanks is great. Tom Hanks is one of the greatest. But 80s Tom Hanks was a whole other level.
it hit
Between
different.
this, The Burbs, Joe versus
Bachelor Party,
Volcano, all that stuff. Tom Hanks is the best in the 80s.
Yes. Yeah, I saw Bachelor Party fairly recently for the first time. Great movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one he did with John Candy. I can't remember what the name of that is.
I know what you're talking about. Are they missionaries, or they're like Peace Corps or something?
There's something, they're like traveling, they're in some country, and of course my internet's not working right now. It's not Explorers, but it's something like that, and it's great. It's another one. It's kind of gone unheralded, but it's great.
Yeah.
Come on, computer. Well, I'm looking that up.
Movie too. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, looking that up, I'll go with my number 10. My number 10, a friend introduced me to about 12 or 13 years ago. It's one you and I had seen in the video store, and we always talked about watching, and we, like at Hastings, we never did. And I got around to watching it, and I've watched it many times since, because it's such a hilarious, goofy, upbeat movie. And it was one of the things that really clued me in, because I'm not a big, it's like, South Park's well written. I'm not a big South Park fan. I've never watched it a lot. Yeah. But 1993's Cannibal the Musical showed me that those guys know how to write, and they are hilarious. Trey Parker starring and directing and writing it. It is such a fun movie about cannibalism and the take on the Donner Party mythos from beginning to end. And you cannot help but sing the songs for days afterwards. The songs "When I Am on Top of You," the song he sings at the beginning. Yes, Spadoinkle. I'm terrible with names of things. Do you want? It's like the Snowman song. Just everything in that movie is like great to sing along to. It's a fun, low-budget movie, and Trey Parker seems so young and fresh and just like enthusiastic about it. It was a great beginning to a storied career. Yeah, not a huge South Park fan. Those dudes are geniuses. They can write a few others. And another one that I love musicals, and Cannibal the Musical is one of my favorites. Volunteers from 1985 is the Tom Hanks John Candy movie, as an aside.
Yeah.
But Cannibal the Musical is a quirky musical that even if you're not into it, even if you're not into musicals, it's really enjoyable. It's one I'll probably introduce to Amy at some point in the near future. It's hilarious, and it's just fun.
Yeah. And they were like dumb college kids. Like, they made that movie for nothing.
They did. And I remember running into the movie and like, oh, we need to watch that. And I own it now, and it's just wonderful.
All right, we're going with number 9. This is a movie that it's dumber than dirt, and it's stupid, and I love it. And it's a movie that I quote at least once a week to this day. I say it's dumber than dirt because the idea of it is stupid, and yet it's made geniusly. It's Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Oh
I absolutely adore this movie, and it should work. It should just be like the worst trash, but it's so funny.
It's funny. Do you know Woody Allen did something like that?
No.
He dubbed over a old kung fu flick, and I think it's called "What's Up, Tiger Lily" or something to that effect. But it wasn't successful, and I hate Woody Allen, so oh well. And it's like this wasn't the most original idea, but it works so well, and it's hilarious. That is a movie that also is great for the special features, where you can change the dubbing and whatnot, or see what they're originally saying. A lot of entertainment to be had with that movie.
Yeah, and that movie is still like relegated to DVD, and even that's out of print. Like it goes for stupid money on eBay now.
That's wild. But that's one I remember Yumi and Shaw watching back in the day. Wee-oh, 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 wee-oh. You cannot predict what's going to happen next. It is so wild and all over the place. And you're right. It's a really stupid movie, but it's a really, really fun movie as well. And it comes together well, mainly because talented people really poured their heart into it, and it shows.
Yeah. Well, at least once a week, I'm singing the Taco Bell song. Yeah.
Well, my number 9 is one of the newer movies on my list, and it is a comedy, and it's also kind of a dumb movie, and it's also a sports movie. I'm generally not the biggest sports movie fan, but some movies can do it really well, especially when they put a comedy slant on it. This is one of the more underappreciated Will Ferrell movies. I guess just because there's more popular things that came out before and after it. But 2008's Semi-Pro, about the Flint, Michigan Tropics and the American Basketball League. I keep on coming back to it and watching it and laughing every time I watch it. It's about the fledgling. It wasn't I think it was ABL.
Yeah, American Basketball League.
That was competing with the NBA, but at that point in the 70s, they were starting to wane because there were a lot of different sports leagues back in the day. Like in the 80s, you had the American Football League and all these other ones that popped up trying to compete, and they didn't end up lasting, kind of like wrestling territories. But, the plot being that this gimmicky basketball team in dinky Flint, Michigan is trying to save their team and go to the NBA, and they're owned by this one-hit wonder singer Jackie Moon, and the team's great. And you have Andre 5000 and Woody Harrelson and a great supporting cast. It's fun. It's hilarious. Will Ferrell is so over the top throughout it. I think my favorite part is when he goes to wrestle the bear and the bear gets loose. He's like, use your children as shields. It's a fun movie. It's a heartwarming movie. It manages to hit a lot of those comfort movie things. A lot of people aren't huge fans of Will Ferrell, and I get that. I just think this is a really fun, heartwarming movie. And it's definitely on my list of, if I don't know what to watch, I'll throw that on, and I'll always have a good time.
Yeah, I know everybody loved the irrelevancy of Anchorman and Step Brothers, like that. I think that and Old School are my two absolute all-time favorite Will Ferrell movies.
And I know Talladega Nights came out around the same time and really overshadowed it.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of good Will Ferrell movies that have kind of flown under the radar. That's one of them. I think they were anticipating it being a bigger hit than it was. And Stranger Than Fiction, which is my absolute favorite Will Ferrell movie. But it's one I think it's waiting to be rediscovered because it's a great movie. I love that it takes place in the 70s. And it's fun beginning to end. And you'll, kind of like Cannibal Musical, you'll be singing Love Me Sexy for days afterwards.
Get the funk out of my face. All right, I promise these aren't all comedies. It's just they all wind up here at the end. This is a movie it's from 2001. It's a movie we watched a million times. It's a movie that had a nonsensical word that took our our entire world by storm. It led to the main audio protagonist in one of our movies. I'm talking about Saving Silverman.
Oh man.
Because it kindled our fire for Neil Diamond. It led to a Neil Diamond song playing, and the same Cherry Baby played at our wedding reception because of this movie. And of course, you know, if you yell out "Coming to Yay Ha," somebody's got to yell it back. That's how it goes.
Yay ha. Yeah. Another one that's gotten lost in the mix of that era, kind of blends together. I love Jack Black and Jason
Biggs
and Steve Zahn.
Steve Zahn, yeah.
Yeah, and Arlie Ermey randomly in there.
He's the best part of that movie.
Oh no, he is great. And it's fun, you know. These guys looking out for their buddy, and they kidnap his terrible girlfriend, and it's just she's awful, but they are so terrible at kidnapping. That is a really fun movie. I've never had to rewatch it. I'm gonna have to fix that because that's another one. I absolutely. I figured there's gonna be a lot on your list that I would be like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? That's one of them. Because Saving Silverman is a classic and has so much random awesomeness in it.
Oh,
some really unexpected things, and the big wedding at the end.
The quotes alone, man. I mean, to this day, like if I use anything around the house, I'm like, yep, it was a lug nut, fixed it. Or the rules of nachos, how one nacho, if one chip sticks to the other, it's one nacho. Like, just there's so much of that movie is so
just
funny.
Random stuff like.
I feel like he got lost, kind of like with Semi-Pro, because School of Rock was so huge. Because you lose that Jack Black movie, you lose Orange County, which is another underrated Jack Black movie. Even there was High Fidelity to an extent. It was a little before then.
Yes.
It feels like everybody just like immediately hit Jack Black with School of Rock.
Yeah, and I remember back in high school, we loved Jack Black. We were big fans of his, and I'm still a big fan of his. He's an awesome guy, and he just in a lot of great stuff. And I like that he's expanded out his roles he's in. But yeah, I remember you went about finding a DVD of one of Jack Black's early movies, Bong Water. Because we saw the
Jesus Ranch in it.
Yes, we saw the trailer in which Jack Black sings "I Fell in Love with a Baked Potato," and we decided we had to figure out what was going on in that movie. The movie was a lot more serious than I thought it would be, but it has some golden parts, especially Jack Black as Daddy Green Jeans.
Daddy Green Jeans, yep. That was one of those movies that really, like, that trailer, if you just go watch the trailer for Bong Water, and it's great. The movie is like, okay, like, all right, well, I guess we're in it now, but
I wasn't expecting date rape. So watch the trailer, watch the Jesus Ranch, which I will randomly put on to listen to.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie is very avoidable.
Yeah.
Well, number 8 is sort of a dramedy told in vignettes, but and it's also sort of a musical. It's a movie I don't know, the cover didn't speak to me. It's from 1986. But I caught it on TV, and I've watched it several times since because I think it is such a joyous, life-affirming movie. And it's a very relaxing movie to watch. And being told in vignettes with these various parts, it's a fun movie. And it's David Byrne's True Stories from 1986. Written, directed, and starring David Byrne of the Talking Heads. Not a huge Talking Heads fan, admittedly. And I made that post a few days ago with him in his big suit and sneaking stuff into the movies. A little bit of foreshadowing there too. An early John Candy role, and he leans in that role so hard and plays such a likable character. And it's all these vignettes of these people in this small town in Texas and the various eccentrics who live there and their lives. And they're getting ready for their, I think it's their 120-year celebration. And David Byrne's kind of the narrator, and he breaks the fourth wall, but he's also involved in scenes. And there's one part where they sing Wild, Wild Life, and all these members of the community are singing it. I know I used this term already. It's a very heartwarming movie. It's a very fun movie. Wasn't hugely successful at a release, but I think it's so good beginning to end. I think it's catchy, and I think it's funny, and it's a great vehicle for John Goodman to flex some of his comedic talents. And David Byrne is quite a character. I just love that guy.
I adore that movie. It's one that I've been trying to find the right time to not only to introduce Amber to it, but to be able to do like a deep review of it, because I love that movie. Yeah, John Goodman's so great. That scene where he like has to tell his date like why he likes country music so much.
Yes.
It's just such a beautiful little like melted caramel in your mouth type of movie. It's so good.
This little slice of Americana. It's very, very well written. The characters are great. It's one of those movies I can't find anything wrong with it. I think it's damn near a perfect movie. Yeah. So if you ever want to review that one together, I am down, because I absolutely love that movie.
Yeah. All right, we leave the jokes in the past now because we are getting to the action. This movie from 1989. Although I say that this movie is really is a comedy if they didn't play it so darn straight. It gave us one of the coolest guys of the 80s. It gave me my first huge man crush, which was Sam Elliott. We're talking Roadhouse, baby. I love Roadhouse. Again, this movie is a comedy, just played super straight.
Yes.
And it's dumber than a box of hammers, and I love it. It's just the right amount of sleazy, and you have Patrick Swayze just glistening all over that movie. And then Sam Elliott just like coming in and taking your mom home. Like, it's just that type of movie. I almost wish that we were doing this tomorrow because I pre-ordered it like in September, but the Vinegar Syndrome just did this nice 4K remaster of it that I can't wait to see. But I love Roadhouse.
That just didn't make my list. That's another movie that came on all the time back in the 90s. I watched the movie as an adult, popped in the DVD, and it's like, whoa! This was a lot more sexually graphic than I remembered. A lot of nudity, a lot of swearing, and a lot of beefcake dudes and attractive women with big hair. And it's an absolutely absurd movie. They talked about in Family Guy about how Roadhouse is the movie where Patrick Swayze solves every problem by kicking people, and that's pretty much the truth. Yes.
Plus, you got like a 1980s Terry Funk running around.
I love big Terry Funk fan, and he's great in that movie. Terry Funk was in a lot of movies. Holy cow, did that guy show up? Perfect role for him. And just some other people that are like, oh yeah, I remember that guy from other action movies. Ben Gazzara's great as the villain. It's fun. The fight scenes are ridiculous. It's a stupid movie. It's an awesome movie. I love Patrick Swayze's mullet. One thing I noticed as I got older, because you talked about, I was like, oh, you're smaller than I thought. Watching the movies as an adult, Patrick Swayze's kind of a small guy.
Yeah, he's like
he's not a big dude, but he kicks all the ass in that movie. And that part where he tears the dude's throat out and kicks him into the river, awesome. I know they're remaking it, which I don't think is necessary, but I think Roadhouse is a movie that works. It was made at the right point in time with the right people to work.
Yeah.
Because it's not a terribly serious movie. You're right. It's a comedy played straight. It's absurd, but it is awesome. It's one of those staple of the 90s televisions that just it never gets old. I finally showed it to Bree and Tommy, neither one of which have seen it, and they loved it. It's a fun movie. Yeah. It's so ridiculous.
And Jeff Healey playing blind guitar.
Yes.
Just fart rock blues. I love it.
It's another one beginning to end, just awesomeness, and down to the final fight and the beer falling on the guy. It just keeps on ramping up the insanity. Running a monster truck through a car dealership. They destroyed a lot of shit to make that movie. Holy cow! They blew up so many buildings, wrecked so many cars, broke 1 million bottles. Worth it.
And the
great movie.
Villain of the movie just wants to bring like Domino's and Walmart to the town.
Yeah. It's like, I want to increase business of the town. They're like, no, you can't do that, Ben Sarah. Maybe his methods were a little heavy-handed, but a little bit.
Well, you don't get the IF guys like you in prison guy as your right-hand muscle.
No.
Maybe you don't hire that guy.
Yeah. That dude's that line that he tells him, it's just like, wait, what? You have to rewind it. You're like, did I just hear that? Yes, yep. That is exactly what he said. Also, don't bring your razor blade boots into Patrick Swayze's bar, or he'll drag you out.
Just be nice.
Be nice. I wonder how many real-life bouncers have based their persona off of him, because I bet it's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So, for my number 7, we're reaching back into the 80s also for a quirky comedy that might be considered a bit of a dark comedy, but it doesn't really play like a dark comedy. I'm a big John Cusack fan. I think right up until about the year I think High Fidelity, Grosse Pointe Blank was kind of at the end of the John Cusack era that I was really fond of. He's made some decent stuff since then, but that I think was towards about the end of his era for being on top comedy wise. One of his movies that was late to the party seeing was 1985's Better Off Dead, and Better Off Dead is a hilarious comedy about a guy who's bummed out because his girlfriend broke up with him, so he tries to commit suicide in a variety of hilarious ways. It's one of those movies that if you're trying to describe it to people, it wouldn't sound funny. You just have to see it because it's so quirky and offbeat. All the weird crap his mom cooks, his street racing against the guys in the station wagon, it's all this stuff. It's got so much random weirdness just interjected into it that keeps you up. That you constantly are. The jokes come at you so rapidly. The visual stuff, like the crazy newspaper delivery kid and such, and it ending with a singing competition. It is one of the most offbeat high school romance movies ever, but it's one of the best in my opinion. And the French foreign exchange student, she is just so adorable in it. I love it beginning to end. I've seen it many times. Bree loves it. It's one of our mutual favorite movies.
Yeah. It's up there with Heather's was like the way how pitch black the comedy is, but how overly funny and quirky it is too. It's one of those movies that you don't. It's again, I think maybe it's kind of overshadowed by. Of course, everything like teen related was overshadowed by the Hughes movies, but it definitely is one that I think when you discover that movie, you're in for a great time.
If you know, and it's like it's often overshadowed too by Say Anything or The Sure Thing, which are also great movies. Better Off Dead is my favorite John Cusack movie. It's great. It is so damn bizarre, and I love his little brother, like building lasers and rockets, and has a look for how to meet lazy women. And the visual jokes are pretty much nonstop in that movie.
All right. Well, we have finally hit, and of course, it would be me of all people. In my past, being known as the guy who hates remakes. This is a remake. It's from the year 2000. It's a remake of a movie that I've never seen, but I love this remake. We talked about it briefly, I think, on a way back live stream, and it's Nick Cage is gone in 60 seconds.
Yes, we did talk about it.
again, this movie is ridiculous. I'm a sucker for crew, like putting a crew together to do something. Movies. You have this ragtag, ridiculous group of actors all together to steal 50 cars in one night or whatever it is. You got Nick Cage with that terrible hairpiece. Angelina Jolie with an equally or worse hairpiece. I love, like, it's one of those movies like when we would go to hunt or go to Amber's family on the eastern side of the state. They all want to go hunting, and I didn't grow up a hunting guy, and so I would just like kind of go, not really want to go. But then in the camper we would stay in, that had an old TV/VCR, and one winter I was in there, and there was a VHS copy of Gone in 60 Seconds. And so from now on, every time they're like, "You want to go out and hunt?" And I'm like, "No, no, thanks. I'm watching Gone in 60 Seconds." And just doing this.
Thank you. I was hoping you would.
It's a fun movie. It's. I was big into car movies when that came out, and that's a great one. It's great for just to see all the awesome cars in it too. Of course, the king of them being Eleanor and that amazing chase. Yes, it's a remake. I've seen the original. The newer one's better. The originals, it's a spectacle to behold, but it's less a movie than one long destructive car chase. And it's impressive for the time. It held the record until Blues Brothers for most cars destroyed in making a movie. I think they managed to make the newer one a lot more fun. It's not like there's a lot to it. It's just fun movies with this crew of random people and Giovanni Ribisi stealing cars. Mm-hmm. And the car chase is just awesome. Good old-fashioned heist movie. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Well, for number 6, we tread into sci-fi action territory. This is a movie that has been bashed repeatedly by people, but I actually think is a pretty shockingly faithful representation of the admittedly kind of goofy source material. It got hosed by critics when it came out, and it's generally not as well remembered now, but I absolutely love this movie beginning to end. It's 1995's, I believe it's 95, Judge Dredd, starring Sylvester Stallone. You know, in the future, Stallone's a cop or a judge dealing out, sentencing and punishment with his fancy gun, the Lawgiver Mark III, flying motorcycles, futuristic cities, and one of my favorite pieces of practical effects ever, the giant ABC Warrior robot, yep. Which is, before CGI, they had to put so much effort in making things like that. It's truly impressive how well they did with so much of the practical effects in that movie. And it's fun. Yeah, they missed some things from the source material. They managed to actually capture the tone of the comics, I think, pretty well. And it's fun. You get exposed to a lot of the different things in the Judge Dredd universe, like the ABC Warriors, like the cannibal rednecks out in the Cursed Earth. And you have Armand Assante, who's just chewing up the scenery as the villain. And Sutter Kane. What's his? Jurgen Prochnow.
Jurgen Prochnow.
Yes. And Rob Schneider's in there too, and at least he's not too distracting. And Max von Sydow. They got a lot of talent in that movie, and it's campy. It's cheesy. I can't lie, but it's a really fun, unique action movie. And I love 2012's Dredd. It's for very different reasons. I think it's a much better serious movie. But for just pure fun, I love Judge Dredd.
If we'd have done 15 instead of 10, I may have just missed because of Demolition Man for me, but I do like that Judge Dredd.
Yes.
It's just Stallone, man, just 90s Stallone. You know, you have
Playing
80s Art. To me, you have 80s Arnold. You have 90s Stallone.
Yes. And just playing it uncharacteristically straight for Stallone, not wisecracking much or anything.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie, and it's one of the, you know, there's some CGI in it, but it's one of the last big budget action movies. That the 90s, I think, was the peak era for the big budget action movies with practical effects.
Yeah.
And it's an era we're probably never going to see again, but I love those movies, and I love all the ingenuity that went into it. So, yes, love Judge Dredd.
Yeah. All right, so for my number 5, I have a double feature, but they're kind of the same movie, and from 1991 and 93 respectively, especially the first one, with the mass reception, positive receptions to Top Gun Maverick. It'd only be fitting that we talk about a movie that, while my grandmother and I didn't watch a lot of the same things. You know, she was a big, she loved her Dolly and she loved her Jimmy Swaggart. We could both agree on this movie because I find these movies hilarious, and she loved Lloyd Bridges. And it's Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2. Again, they're just warm baths, man. Like that. Again, the quotes of them, the side gags of it's the Zucker brothers. No, it was Abrams, wasn't it? No, Zuckers did. It may have been the Zucker brothers that did it. The guys did Naked Gun.
Yes.
Which almost made the list. Naked Gun almost made the list, but if I did pull the trigger on one of the franchises, it had to be Hot Shots. But no, especially the second one has so many great quotable lines in it. My favorite being Miguel Ferrer, R.I.P. War. It's fantastic. You know, the stuff with the chicken in the Rambo 3, all that stuff is great. The first one with John Cryer playing Dead Meat, and the Take My Breath Away set scene where they're cooking breakfast on.
Oh man, that's what I remember most is that scene.
Valeria Gold, yeah. Smoking hot in those movies, like that was my first, I remember Big Crush was like, woo, all right.
She was something, let me tell you. That parody movies were great in the 80s and 90s, and those were right up there. They were great. That's some peak Charlie Sheen right there, who already went totally off the rails. So. Charlie
Sheen wasn't terrifying at the time. It was great.
Yeah. We're like, oh, he seems like a nice, likable guy. I loved him a minute at work. Yeah. So I'll be back in just 1 minute.
Yeah. All right, well, what do you guys got? Anybody in the comments have anything? I haven't been really looking at chat much. A few people pop in and out. What about you? Do you have movies like that? Off cam, Amber?
Son-in-law?
Son-in-law? Okay. I like it, buddy. I almost put Encino Man on here.
A Mummy.
Yeah. That when Nick and I talked about doing 15, the Mummy would have been number 11. I love the Mummy. I'm so glad he's getting a resurgence. Good for him. Love me some Brendan Fraser. In fact, that's one of the only. Like I said, I'm gonna see the 2 movies this weekend with Bones and All and Violent Night, and then The Whale is honestly the only other movie I really care to see this year.
On that note, I did go and see Black Adam. It was okay.
It's supposedly, I don't know what the rumor mill says it's supposed to be on HBO Max next, like the 16th or 17th.
Yeah, it's
coming. So I might check it out.
Yeah, it was all right. So, we're on to my number five, and this is one that will probably be on a lot of people's list of favorite movies, comfort movies, comedies, whatever, because it's a Coen Brothers movie and they're awesome and extremely talented. This hard to say what their most noteworthy movie is. This has to be in their top three most noteworthy movies. It's The Big Lebowski from 1998. This is a movie not everyone quite gets the appeal of, and I understand that. It showed everybody, she's like, no big deal. This movie speaks to me. I love the Coen Brothers style. I love the writing, and of course, Jeff Bridges as the dude is just great. This burnout stoner in the middle of this crazy situation with this amazing supporting cast. Julianne Moore's looking smoking hot in it. Steve Buscemi. It takes so many unexpected turns and random things happen. The nihilists and them breaking into his apartment and pissing on his rug. I love the dialogue in it. I love the overall tone, and just, you know, Sam Elliott showing up as, you know, the rumors is he's supposed to be God. It's one of those movies you kind of have to see to appreciate and fully absorb it, because describing the plot wouldn't do it justice at all. I remember I read a little bit about it. I didn't see it until well into adulthood, because I was like, I figured it was just wildly overrated. It's not. I love The Big Lebowski.
No, I love it. I will tell you this as somebody who went through it. Show it to her again, because the first time I showed Amber, she was like, "This is garbage, and I hate your guts. Why are you making me watch this?" And then, like 5 years later, I was like, "Oh, so and so had never seen it. Let's watch it." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, it was kind of funny." And then I think we were gonna do a podcast episode over. I was like, "Let's watch it again," and she was like, "Okay, I get it. It's really funny."
Yeah.
So you just gotta beat them with it, and
the more you watch it, the more you pick up on it. It's definitely one of those movies. I honestly could have put another Coen Brothers movie or two on this list. I decided to just limit it to one. I love them, and I love their styles, starting back at Blood Simple onwards. I don't think they've ever made really a bad movie. So, and they keep on putting out great stuff. I recently rewatched No Country for Old Men. Oh man,
top 5 all-time movies. I love that.
That is a movie that is pure excellence with writing, acting, cinematography, pacing. Yeah, they're masters of the craft, and their best comedy, I think, is The Big Lebowski. Yeah. Although Raising Arizona is up there. That is a stellar movie.
Yeah. All right, number 4. Talk about another person like coming into their own within this year of our Lord 2022. I teased this movie. I'm not going to be surprised if it's close to this same spot on your list. It's UHF. It was the movie, like, I discovered Weird Al when I moved to Hobart, because I had grown up with two very conflicting musical style parents, where my mother was strictly, we listened to 90s country, and that is all. And then my dad peppering in a little bit of Meatloaf and Foreigner and AC/DC. And then in 4th grade, I discovered Weird Al, and my whole world changed. And then you and your VHS copy of UHF, even more so. And it's a movie that I hold absolutely dear to my heart. I think it's absolutely spectacular. And it's a movie that I couldn't wait to show Ashton when he was born. I was like, you gotta be old enough to love this movie. And I love UHF. And there's nothing, I mean, we could talk about the lines and the characters. Michael Richards, again, back in the late 80s, early 90s, what a stand-up guy. You know, all the parody stuff, Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse. My all-time favorite scene of that movie is when they kidnap him and he's doing the Bonanza theme song. And he just stops and he yells, he talks, he's like, the blindfold fell off. And then in the pitch perfect time, and he goes, oh, my shirt glows in the dark. You have John B. himself as Kevin McCarthy's like dipshit son, who's like, "But Dad," like you talk about that movie. We talk about that movie the whole time. I love UHF.
We'll have to do a comprehensive review at some point. That VHS, my mom had to work to hunt that down because at the point she found that, it was out of print. She managed to somehow special order a copy because that was like one of those things for that Christmas I wanted. I still have that same VHS where my mom wrote Hinton and Sharpie on it. If I ever meet a Weird Al, that's what I'm getting signed. Is that VHS because you and I watch it so many times. I will hold off any more additional commentary for UHF because it might show up a little later on this list. So, as is not unexpected.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me is one of the most iconic trilogies ever in cinema history. I watched this trilogy probably more than about any other trilogy or series. They were on TV all the time. The music is awesome. It's awesome. It's a great adventure story that weaves together throughout 3 movies. Back to the Future. I've watched them so many times. I've caught so many things in the background. Me and Josh Kidd were huge fans of it. We loved it. I got to see it on the big screen once. And what are you going to say about Back to the Future? It's Michael J. Fox. It's Christopher Lloyd. It's can't remember Biff Tannen's name, but it's man, what is this name?
I can't.
It's
remember.
an iconic trilogy. It's well written. It stays pretty consistent throughout. I know a lot of people. I've come to find out a lot of people really don't like the third one, and I love the third one. I don't think it's as good as the first, but I love things set in the Wild West, and it's
Tom Wilson,
who's also in Freaks and Geeks and other things. Love Tom Wilson. Seems like such a nice guy, but he played such a great villain, and there were a multitude of villains. I love the alternate timeline in part 2. I think you've got good variety in all 3 movies, and you really felt for Marty McFly's plight. When somebody asks me what year I was born, I usually say I was born in the year that Marty McFly went back in time. Some of easily my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I've watched them so many times and never gotten bored. You have iconic performances, great set pieces, and one of my favorite crappy cars ever, the DeLorean. It's Back to the Future.
Yeah. No, it's a perfect trilogy. Like it is like it's one of those things when you know, I know there's like talk about what's written into whose contracts or whatever, but in this world of just gobbling up every IP to do something with it, they're not going to touch Back to the Future. I don't think they ever will, because they are 3 perfect time capsules.
There was talks back in the early to mid 2000s of trying to get a 4th one going, not reboot it, but extend it. I think there was a point in time where that could have been done. It could have been done well. I think that ship has long ago sailed.
Yeah,
I'm happy with what we got.
Yeah.
Getting 3 movies as great as that. What more could we really ask for? I'm not going to get too greedy.
Yeah.
I think they're exceptional, beautifully shot, well written, great acting. Another one, I love them all.
Yeah.
That's why I had to include all 3 of them in my one entry.
For sure. Yeah. So, in the pantheon of 1980s Arnold and the run he went on, Commando, Conan. Oh, you go on and on.
Raw Deal, Red Sonja.
Yeah. Raw Deal for those super Arnold fans that know what's up.
Yeah.
Probably the least well received of all those, and yet my absolute favorite is 1987's The Running Man. Again, on TV all the time.
Yes.
Funny enough, the actual story, The Running Man, is probably my second favorite Bachman story behind The Long Walk. wildly different.
Yes,
and
yes,
never,
they
they've
are.
been talking about redoing it. You can never do that movie the way that book ends this day and age. No way, no how, ain't happening.
No.
But this is peak cheesy Arnold. Just the one-liners are out of control. You have Richard Dawson, who like nobody knows now, but
No.
Like, great. You have speaking of hot young Jason crushes, Maria Conchita Alonso.
Oof. Muy caliente.
Yeah. You have Jesse Ventura with that terrible hairpiece. All the great hunters. Sub-Zero,
Buzzsaw.
Dynamo, Fireball.
Buzzsaw.
I just love this movie.
The villains are so hilariously over the top, but I love that each of them has a theme. And you have like, didn't Jim Brown play Fireball? Yeah. Just some interesting casting, and Professor Toru Tanaka played Sub-Zero, and
there was 1 year at camp. I can't remember what year it was. There was a 1 year at camp. All of us were there. You, myself, Matt, and maybe Shaw too. But we all gave ourselves the nicknames of all the runners.
Yes.
Like one of us was Dynamo, one of us was Sub-Zero.
I think you were Sub-Zero.
Fireball and
Matt was
the chainsaw guy.
Buzzsaw.
Buzzsaw.
I think I was Fireball, Matt was Dynamo, you were Sub-Zero, and Shaw was Buzzsaw.
Yeah.
It's just, and I clearly remember that. And they're all awesome villains. Dynamo with his played by Erland Van Lith, guy who died tragically young, but with his Christmas light outfit and his little dune buggy. Just the peak 80s awesomeness, beginning to end. It is really cheesy, but it is never boring, and it is always fun. They have this plot about, like, oh, we're trying to overthrow this corrupt system. It's kind of in the background. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger fighting ridiculous villains.
And being puntastic. It was directed by Starsky from Starsky and Hutch.
That I did not know, but that's even makes it even
Michael, I wrote his name down. Paul Michael Glaser. He played Starsky in the original series. But yeah, we were nerds, dear. Like, we were 10, 11-year-old nerds.
Yes. Yes, we definitely weren't 15 or 16 when that happened.
No. We were children.
That's a movie. It spoke to us, and it could easily show up in my list too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There's so many 80s and 90s. I could have put nothing but 80s and 90s action movies on this list, and more than filled it up. My number 3 is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. It's one I watched a lot growing up, and as another trend with this, I watched it unedited. It's like, wow, there's a lot more language and crude stuff in this. It's my favorite of the vacation movies, and it's Christmas Vacation, of course, from '89. I like all 4 of the vacation movies. I'm not including that Cousin Eddie's Island Adventure monstrosity, but Vacation, European Vacation, Christmas Vacation, even Vegas Vacation, I all like. But Christmas Vacation is one. It's a yearly ritual that I watch it. It is the only movie I own on VHS, DVD, and Laserdisc. Yes, I have that. It's a fun movie about this guy who loves Christmas and trying to spend it with family, and everything keeps on unraveling, and things keep coming up, and Cousin Eddie shows up. Again, it's Christmas Vacation. What am I going to say about it? It's a stellar, irreverent Christmas movie. You know, the part where he goes out and at the beginning of the movie to get the gigantic tree that doesn't fit, and the critters and the tree, and just his Julia Louis-Dreyfus is one of his neighbors, and it's fun beginning to end. And I love how it gets kind of a little unhinged at the end, and he kidnaps his boss. It's great fun and a great Christmas movie that doesn't try to be as serious and super heartwarming as the other Christmas movies, or nostalgic.
100%. It's my favorite of the vacation movies. It's probably my favorite Christmas movie. And like you, we had like a recorded off of ABC copy of that movie that I watched my entire childhood and didn't even think twice about it. And then I think a couple years ago we wanted to watch with Ashton, and I bought it on Blu-ray and popped it in and we were watching. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's a lot more adult oriented than I remember. A lot more so. As is the case with apparently the first three vacation movies in general. Yeah. There's quite a bit of nudity in those first two. So, but I said stuff you missed growing up in the 90s watching that on TV. Yeah. Then you're in for a fun surprise as an adult.
So my number 2 is probably the movie I've seen the most ever on television. And I think I've, having owned it through several formats, it's the movie I've seen the most just on cable television. It includes, I was really sad to learn that the actual movie has a weird television edit in it for language to give it the PG-13 that it has. I think you mother humpers know what I'm talking about. It's 1990s Tremors. Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, Reba McEntire. But yeah, I'll never forget being like, oh, he does say mother humper in the real movie. That's just a weird. Why did that make it in the final edit? Yeah,
it's bizarre. I think it's one of the best monster movies ever made.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of competition in that department, but I remember we watched Tremors a lot back in the day, and Tremors 2. Mm-hmm. I have never met anyone who's seen Tremors and didn't like it. It's fun. It's funny. It's got great creature. Again, that era of awesome practical effects. And man, that shootout in the basement with Reba McEntire and guy whose name escapes me.
Michael Gross.
Michael Gross. Also starting Cool as Ice, fun fact.
Yep.
Little town besieged by subterranean ancient worm monsters. It doesn't sound great, but it's treated with such respect and done so well. It's a great movie. Another staple of the 90s. It's just great beginning to end. I enjoyed the sequels. The original can't be surpassed. And it's pure excellence. It is how you make a fun monster movie.
100%.
Well, my number 2 is another staple of the 90s television. It came on all the time, and I watched it every time. My dad and I watched it every time. I still watch it pretty often. I own it. I love it. It's an absurd movie, one of my favorite John Carpenter movies, Big Trouble in Little China. This, to me, is one of the ultimate cult movies because it has so much stuff in there. Jack Burton, this swashbuckling trucker hero, trying to help his buddy get his kidnapped fiance back from the forces of evil. And it keeps ramping up in insanity the entire movie. It keeps getting crazier and crazier. More creatures are introduced, and people die in some insane ways. Probably the craziest that being the guy who expands and blows up like a balloon. It is so fun. It's so ridiculous. And it's what gave me my deep appreciation for both John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. Those two together, they make magic. Apparently, a lot of people who are connoisseurs of Asian cinema really didn't like the way they handled that, but I don't know how you can see this movie and not have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah,
because it is. It's a fun movie beginning to end with a ton of likable characters and a prime Kim Cattrall looking very attractive. Uh, I'm such a big fan of this movie. The knife he carries in that movie is a Gerber Tac 2. I'm looking for one, but apparently I nearly bought one a little while back, but the knife is going for north of $300 now. So that's a tough pill to swallow for a knife. But that shows how much I love this movie. I you get the wife beater he wears with a fun pattern on it. I'm getting that. I'm rocking that. It's great. I will watch it. I watch it every week if I wanted to. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, one of these months we're gonna have to just sit down. I'm gonna have to take the time to sit down. So we'll have to plan it a couple months ahead, so I can sit down and rewatch them all. But we're someday gonna rank John Carpenter's movies, because putting this list together, I kept Carpenter off because otherwise 7 of the 10 would probably be Carpenter movies in some form or fashion. But
yes.
Big Trouble in Little China is the best. I know everybody loves Snake Plissken. I love Snake Plissken. I love McCready. Jack Burton is Kurt Russell's greatest character. I love Jack Burton.
He has. It looks like everyone had a lot of fun making that movie, and Kurt Russell is just loving it. He pours his heart into it. It's just like the random lines he has, and just it's great. I just adore that movie. Somebody said Big Trouble in Little China is why Mortal Kombat exists. I remember watching that on cable, back in the mid-90s, and be like, is that Raiden?
Yeah.
Because Raiden's very clearly based off that character, and a great character. That gang fight in the middle, the beginning of the movie is just fantastic. And just the different creatures that show up, the floating eyeball creature, that monster in the tunnel that just comes out and eats a guy. They're like,
the big ginger werewolf thing? Yeah.
No, they're in the tunnel. That comes in later.
Yeah, the big
like
frog big monster.
Insect monster comes out and snatches the guy up. And the guy who's another one, I said I'm terrible with names.
Is it Egg Shin?
Victor Wong was the actor, played Egg Shin. Throws a smoke bomb. It's like, well, I guess he's gone now. Moving on. And that creepy werewolf thing scared me to death when I was a kid. That thing's frightening. Mm-hmm. Gunfights, knife fights, awesome action beginning to end. It's amazing.
Also, the way they throw those gherkins is why I'm not allowed to go to axe throwing anymore, because they let you do the flip. All right, so my number one, I went with the first one of this trilogy. I could have put all 3 of them. While this trilogy is nowhere near the consistency or greatness of the Back to the Future trilogy, all 3 of them, even the third one, which is hated and kind of killed the director's career for a good long while, I love. It was just a character that I was exposed to, like, dangerously too young, and just love these movies to death. But it's RoboCop. I adore RoboCop. I love RoboCop 2 because it's so over the top. You have with Tom Noonan, that mouthy little kid, and then the third one, it's terribly PG, but RoboCop's got a jetpack, man.
And a robot ninja.
Yeah.
That third one feels like it was made for children. It really does. It's a lot, especially watching the first one and people getting blown to pieces or shot in the dick. The third one's remarkably toned down, but it's still a fun movie.
Yeah.
I think the first one is an absolute classic. I think it's all this, so they jam so much social commentary into that movie, and it's violent to the point of being almost cartoonish, but it is great.
Yeah.
Beginning to end. And like a broken record, watching it on TV was a lot different than watching it on TV.
Yeah.
Tommy said the first RoboCop is really deep philosophically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's one of those movies. It's got a lot more substance than you would think. And it's got comedy in it, tragedy, drama, and a ton of action. Although I still don't know what.
I know 2 is very what Frank Miller would become. But very just like imagine all that action from the first movie, but with any of the social satire.
Yes. Second one, not deep, but you have a RoboCop versus upgraded RoboCop, and just the nuke drug. Tom Noonan's a great villain. What a hell of a character actor. But it's a really cool movie, and that foul-mouthed little kid who's the drug dealer. They're all
RoboCop super good. He's like he gets beat up by the baseball team at the convenience store.
They kept on making some odd choices.
Yeah.
And I come to find out they kept on doing more. They had a series, a RoboCop TV series. They had a few made-for-TV movies. And something I didn't discover until recently, there was a cartoon called RoboCop Alpha Command or Alpha Commando, which has an absurd opening song where they say RoboCop, da da da, RoboCop. It'd be like 80 some odd episodes of it. So you go from hyper violent Paul Verhoeven first RoboCop, literally shooting people's dicks off, to super cheesy 90s cartoons.
Yeah.
A lot of
every 90s R-rated movie got a kid's cartoon and toy line.
Yes.
You had RoboCop, you had Rambo, you had Police Academy of all things. There was a Highlander cartoon.
I love that cartoon.
Just the amount of R-rated IP that was just like, no kids, it's fine. Here, you'll enjoy.
Yeah, that was so popular, turning hard stuff into children's shows. There's also, I can't forget, Chuck Norris Karate Commando.
One of my favorites is only lasted like one episode, but the VHS came with the action figure, Swamp Thing.
Yes.
Swamp Thing had its own cartoon.
Oh, and that line, the Toxic Crusaders, spun off. You want to talk about something that's not kid-friendly, the Toxic Avenger. But they made a great cartoon out of it. I love that Swamp Thing cartoon. I actually think they made around 10 episodes of it. I watched them religiously, and I had the action figures. But that was such an odd thing they kept on doing. It's like, are the kids going to get the source material? Doesn't matter. They made some awesome cartoons out of it.
We got to stop the turtles. Whatever it is, throw it at the kids. It's got to stop the turtles.
They threw everything at the wall to try to keep up with that every day. And it shows. But I love RoboCop. They're great. I remember Tommy and I watched RoboCop together many years ago. And we've talked about watching the made-for-TV movies, which are really low budget, but pretty fun still. The remake, I don't think was bad, but I don't know. It's nothing ever quite captured the magic of the first one. Tommy said, I can still hear the Toxic Crusader themes. We're the Toxic Crusaders. We're the Toxic Crusaders. Said, totally not kid friendly, but that was a really good cartoon. I loved it. We grew up with some killer cartoons. Well, to wrap up this list, you can probably see what's coming because you mentioned it earlier. It's UHF from 1989, which is not only my top comfort movie, it is my favorite movie of all time. I will not try to tell anybody it's the best movie of all time, but I have so much personal history wrapped up in this movie, with my mom renting me a copy of it from Broadway Video, then hunting me down that copy, which I still have. I loved Weird Al and I loved his music. And one connection I have is UHF was filmed in Oklahoma. It's filmed up in Tulsa, which someday I want to go take a tour and see some of the spots where they filmed. I know some of them are gone, but it spoke to me, and I thought it was so cool that Weird Al filmed a movie in Oklahoma of all places, and it's nonstop jokes and sight gags. And he spoke about with Mike Richards, Stanley Spadowski. It's a really fun movie. It's a heartwarming movie. I really wish we got more Weird Al movies.
Yeah.
But And it's also, that DVD has my favorite commentary, which the commentary for UHF is fantastic and it offers a lot of insight in some of the deleted scenes. I bought the special edition Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
I watch it and I have so many fond memories of growing up and you and I watching it and us quoting it. And it's a movie I love sharing with people, but it holds a special place in my heart that nothing else has quite ever touched. And it's been on my top favorite movies list of all time for most of my life now. I'm glad it's managed to get together quite a large following. It is just all the various parodies. I love Cody and the Librarian, the parody of I think it was the Phil Donahue show or whatever.
Was it Street Talk?
Yeah. Yes, Street Talk. Lesbian Nazi hookers abducted by aliens and forced into weight loss programs. Yeah,
Raoul's Wild Kingdom?
Yes.
Oh, man.
And today we're going to teach poodles how to fly. Played by late actor Trinidad Silva. Yeah, I know a lot of trivia about this movie because it's my movie that, again, the ship has sailed more than any other I wanted a sequel to.
Yeah.
Back in the 2000s, if I had won the lottery, I would throw money at it to make a sequel.
And you still could be like, where it's George Newman. He's trying to create his own streaming service.
Yes.
The movie writes itself.
Bring it back, and it snowballed into such a cult classic. I kind of still amazed to this day that it didn't do better in the theaters. It made its money back, and that's about.
Because I think it was placing, because I think they've talked about like the weekend it came out against like Ghostbusters 2, Last Crusade,
yes.
Like one of the Back to the Future movies. Like it was DOA.
It went up against so many summer blockbusters. It was just buried. I wish they'd come out with it at a different time of the year. It would have been great around Christmas, for example. But yeah, I remember that from the commentary now. That was really, one of the biggest blockbuster summers ever. And it was just couldn't quite compete, even though, I mean, Weird Al was still white hot at that time. Just couldn't quite replicate his success. And you could watch and listening to the commentary, you can tell him and the director, it's like they were pretty disappointed by it. And it's disappointing it didn't go better because I think it is a genius movie. I think it is funny and fun. It just great beginning to end. Tommy, you and I will have to watch this together at some point because we still have it.
Oh yeah, if you haven't, oh man, that you have to watch it 3 or 4 times in a row to get all the jokes, and even then, you miss some
because they come so rapid fire, and there's a lot of references to TV shows and movies. So many. Like I've paused that where they have the chart board with all the stuff they're going to be showing on the station. Mm-hmm. And it's like pausing that and seeing all the random stuff they put up there is hilarious. And that's really, I think, what launched Michael Richards' career and playing the very lovable Stanley Spadowski. Yeah. And the one thing people always quote is like, "Stupid, you're so stupid." Red snapper, very tasty. It's UH.
Hey, I someday hope to get Amber to try a Twinkie Wiener sandwich.
Negative, won't happen.
I remember we tried them. I don't know how much I like it now, but I liked it at the time. I mean, Twinkie, hot dog, and cheese grits.
Yep.
Remember we all hung out and watch UHF and had Twinkie Wiener.
Eat those and drink Cactus Cooler.
Yes.
The important thing, though, kids at home, is heat up your hot dogs. Do not don't raw dog a hot dog into a Twinkie Wiener sandwich. Will not go well. Matt Boland learned that the hard way.
Well, that's my list of my comfort movies. I said I could easily fill up a couple more lists with these, but those were the ones. I just went with what came to mind first. And there are several things on your list that, yeah, would easily show up on another list of mine.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again. There's just those weird little. They just make you feel good thinking about them. So, like I said, next month we're doing what every person who talks about movies does in January, and that's talk about the best and worst of last year. I'm excited about. There are some that I still have to watch that could float on my list. I don't know how that'll go. Right now, I'm pretty happy with my top 10 list, but I can see some of those being on the opposite ends of others. Also, movies that I flat out were in my bottom 5 that were really beloved. So, and then I think February we're doing, because by then it should just be stupidly cold. So I think we talked about doing our top 10 cold weather movies. Now this can be, mostly it's movies that take place in cold weather that you love.
Yes.
So keep those in mind. And then after that, I don't know.
We'll figure
It'll be in
it
a whole
out.
new year, whole new movie stuff. We'll have. Oh, I will tell you this. I'm excited for this. Amber's not, because she thinks I'm doing it as a punishment, when really I'm trying to just have a good time. So January, for the 4 weeks of January, the movie reviews are going to be themed, because I wanted to do the red letter media. Fuck you, it's January. But so instead, we're doing 90s schlock movies. So I have some doozies lined up for her to watch. And
what month is that going to be?
For January. It's what the movie reviews I'm going to put up each week. We're doing 90s schlock. So I'll tell you, I don't have them written down. They're on my phone. I can't tell you one of them is probably my favorite Dolph Lundgren movie. It also involves aliens, so let's wonder that.
Oh, Tommy, you know exactly what he's talking about. This is Tommy and I love that movie.
Michael Ironside post-apocalyptic movie from the early 90s that I have not seen, but I'm excited for.
Is it Neon City?
Yes.
Tommy and I have watched that.
What were the other ones, dear?
It's actually pretty decent. I was really surprised. It even caught kind of poignant in parts.
I was like, post-apocalyptic Michael Ironside's a hero. So
yes.
Oh,
it's
Highway to Hell is the other big one. The Chad Lowe.
That is a good one. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Christy
Swanson.
Yes. Ooh. I think she's one of the hottest gals of the 90s. So, yeah, those are some great ones. I'm hoping I can get around to maybe get on an end of that next month also. I haven't done my own solo reviews, but I've been wanting to get to do that. It's just been a weird year.
Yeah. Well, but, surgery recovery will do that to you.
Yeah. But I very much look forward to those reviews, because those are 3 movies I'm very fond of. Especially the Dolph Lundgren movie. That's a movie that could have only been made in that time period, because it's an absurd movie. There's one part of that movie that makes me break down laughing every time. But yeah.
And then this week, so last week was Anna and the Apocalypse. Which I was sad I didn't enjoy more. But this week's Christmas movie review is the movie that, after watching it, Amber and I were both upset that I hadn't seen it before. So this week the video goes up. It's Deadly Games, a.k.a. Dial Code Santa Claus. And it's a French Home Alone movie but like super R-rated, but came out before Home Alone. And so I think the director even tried to sue Home Alone because of it. But at that time, like, John Hughes and Chris Columbus were so powerful, they were like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, it's like, get out of here with your violent French movie. That's one I've been on my list to watch for a while, just because of the interest in history.
Check it out.
Yes,
it's awesome.
Well, I do. Unfortunately, I need to get going. I've got dogs barking at my door, but I had a lot of fun with this list. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you, whoever joined us. Thank you, Tommy. Yes, we'll hang out soon. Yeah, I'll start getting my list together for best and worst, top 10 best and 5 worst of 2022. I have a feeling we'll have some very different opinions on some of those things there.
Oh, there will be crossover just depending
Yeah.
on what list they're crossing over on.
That's okay. Helps keep things spicy. Well, bud, you have a good Christmas.
You too.
And I will talk to you next time. Bye.
All right, bye. And again,